If you are looking to start budgeting for the first time, or if you've already been budgeting, but you're looking for ways that you can be more consistent and more intentional in your budgeting, listen up, because I've got a few tips for you. For those of you who budgeting may not really be your thing, I understand. But here are a couple of ways that you can be intentional in your budgeting process if that is something that you want to do. Creating a budget can really help you to meet your long-term goals. Those goals for yourself, whether it's paying down debt or increasing your savings for some specific purpose, or just building your net worth so that way you can retire one day, those goals are important to you. When you take possession of those goals, and you view your dream life and you're like, you know what, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to work towards, you will naturally, most likely, end up creating a budget in order to have your current finances help meet those future goals. Creating future goals can be as easy as just saying, like, I want a house one day. What are houses going for? Oh, this amount? Okay, well, I want to save up X amount of dollars so that way we have a reasonable down payment for the house, right? It can be as easy as that, or it can just be like, I want to go on vacation. This is how much I want to spend. Okay, let's save up for that. Too many people get caught up into the trap of just living day to day without really thinking about where their money's going or how it's being spent. And so when they come to these long-term goals, like buying a house or going on vacation, in many cases, people will utilize a huge portion of debt and sometimes credit card debt to be able to do these things, like go on vacation or buy a home or do a house renovation. In reality, had there been some consistency and some intentionality in the budgeting process leading up to that big life event, or even some smaller life events, it would have really made a lot more security for the individual and the family, and in a lot of cases, it can help you avoid a great deal of debt that is just going to weigh on you and affect the security and consistency of your life. In many cases, people start building up their budget and they become so excited, rightly so, for their outcome or the thing that they're saving for, that they just like create these super tight categories in their spending habits. And so they might put a really tight budget on groceries and a really tight budget on all the different items. And so it may be very unrealistic, which is why if you're gonna start a budget, you have to start where you know how, with your individual expenses. So if your family has been spending $3,000 a month over the past, couple months consistently, and you know that, and you're trying to get down to $1,000 a month, it's probably not going to happen overnight. If you have a real passion and a real genuine drive to get to where you want to go with your financial goals, whether that's buying a house or living your dream life in retirement early or whatever you're trying to get towards, a lot of times that requires some sacrifice. However, too often people will drastically try to change their budget without doing the sacrifice in their daily lives necessary to complete that. So there'll be this huge cutback, and then the people won't be able to be consistent with those goals that they've created for themselves that have cut back on. Like for instance, for some people, they may cut back like several $1,000s in their budget, but if their rent doesn't allow for that, they might need to actually look for a new place to rent in order to get that lower rent option to save more of their money. But if you're stuck in a contract, you might not be able to do that for a certain number of months or a certain number of years. If you're in a mortgage, well, that's even harder. I do think there can absolutely be intentionality in pursuing a frugal lifestyle if that's what you desire to live. So for instance, for some families, when they have their children, they'll cut back from 2 incomes to 1. But this can be a huge, huge trial on some families, because that money that they were having from that extra income was kind of important because they've been living off of that for years. They may have bought a house off of that. They may have, accounted for rent and utilities off of that. They may be buying groceries off of that. And so to cut back that income would be detrimental to them at that point. Here's the deal. In reality, that's going to happen sometimes. And sometimes it's going to be a slower, more gradual process. And it may take some sacrifice, like selling a house even, or going to a different place to rent. But to make that decision overnight at the same time may just be detrimental to the actuality and how it can work out. I think there's absolutely a time to make sacrifices for your family, and absolutely, if that's what you need to do, go for it, do it, make those sacrifices, but understand that it's not going to be easy at first, and many people start failing in their budgets and give up on budgeting because they haven't been meeting these goals that they've set for themselves that are so pulled back that they have a hard time meeting them. So in a lot of cases, it's good to look at where you're currently at and then set realistic goals that you can meet accordingly. If you already have a budget and you've noticed that you've had a hard time reaching some of your goals with that budget, this might be because some of your goals are too small. Now, for people on a limited income, sometimes you have to make those goals smaller because you literally cannot live off of anything less. And at that point, you have got to make it the way that you can. For people who have lower incomes and have a harder time, having the option to spend more, they have to live off of less. Right now, my husband and I live off of his income, and I do have an income right now, but it is only used for saving or growing our net worth, so paying down debt. Because of that, we live off of less than half of his income for our living expenses, because we are also giving off of that income, we are also saving off of that income, and we are making minimum debt payments off of that income in addition to paying taxes. When you add all the numbers together, we are doing 100% of that off of one income, and even with a very limited income, we've still been able to live very frugally. But there are some months where we'll go over in one category or another. And although that may seem super detrimental to some, what's nice is when you view your month to month in a more yearly perspective, like some months we're way under. Other months we might be a little bit over, but at the end of the year we should be at about what we need to be about in order to continue reaching our goals. So we don't stress those overages too much. It's not usually a big deal if we go over sometimes, and a lot of times, even if you go over in a small piece of your budget, you're under somewhere else, and so you're not really overspending at all that month, which is really helpful. I think for people, if you can adjust those expenses and you've adjusted them to the point where you literally cannot meet those goals every month, it may be prudent to maybe adjust them a little bit more realistically to goals that you can meet every single month. Now, if you have already created a budget, your goals are set, and you are ready and revving to go, you are thinking of your long-term goals right now. And you're whether that's trying to buy a house, pay down debt, or whether you're just trying to save for a vacation. You are wanting to meet those goals for a certain reason. And so when you're budgeting, keep that reason in mind. Whether it's your dream life, whether it be a dream vacation, or you're just like, okay, I want to buy my dream house. Maybe not your dream house, but hey, something similar. If you can keep that goal in mind, it'll help you a lot more budgeting day to day. So whenever me or my husband is thinking of buying something or thinking of going over budget in some areas, oh my goodness, it can really, really help to think of ways that we can, like, what would happen if we saved that money instead? What would happen if we didn't spend that here? And saving for our dream life and our dream house and like everything like that is so beautiful and so much fun. And I think that when you're keeping the end goal in mind with your budget, it can really help. In some cases, you're just budgeting in a season of maybe paying down debt or trying to stay and live within your means. And so in that season, you might have to budget really hard, but you're looking forward to a season when you can spend once again and when you have the flexibility to be able to make your budget a lot more seamless and maybe less frugal. Whatever your end goal is, when you're keeping that in mind, your budget is going to naturally follow. You're going to have a lot easier time sticking to your budget if you're keeping that end goal in mind. So set your goals reasonably, keep the end goal in mind so that way you can be consistent with your budget. And then the last tip for you that I have is once you figure it out and you set your goals accordingly, and then when you're thinking with the end goal in mind, your financial plan, whatever you are looking forward to in the future that you're saving towards, or whatever the case might be, you've got those two things down. Third, you're going to want to actually calculate out how much is needed to reach that goal. A lot of people just save up for retirement willy-nilly, hoping, praying that at the end of the day, I'll have enough money to retire and live the life of my dreams and go on cruises every day, and it's just not realistic. At the end of the day, you are in charge of your retirement and you're in charge of all the savings that you're building for yourself. If you're not saving enough to create that life that you really want, you need to know that now so that way you can have realistic expectations for the future. In some cases, this might mean that you're not going to get the life that you've previously maybe thought or desired that you would get, or it could just mean that you might have to sacrifice a little bit more now in order to build that life later on. Whatever is more important to you is what is important for your budget. So calculate out whatever your goal is. Divide it out by the months, see how much you have to save. If you're looking for really long-term goals like this, a financial advisor is going to be very helpful to you in that, because they'll help show you how much you need to save along with how much you could earn with the returns that you're earning in your 401ks or 403bs or whatever sort of retirement plan that you have. So they're going to be super helpful. If you don't have one, totally fine. You can't afford one, also totally fine. You can do all of those calculations out yourself if you look up like a retirement calculator. Sometimes if you look up a savings calculator, those can be super helpful. Like if you have a high yield savings account that earns interest, you want to know, okay, how can I earn the most interest and save the most, and what do I need to save each month in order to reach X amount of dollars? You're going to be able to do that. Looking forward to the future and the long-term goals and really calculating it out is going to actually help you in the long run. In the short run, it probably is going to take some time and some effort and some thinking, and if you come to a calculation where you realize it's not going to be realistic for your situation and where you're at, you may have to go back to the drawing board for a bit, figure out maybe your budget, see if there's ways you can make more money, figure out ways that you can build your passive income stream so that maybe that's not an issue for you, whatever the case might be. I hope that you have so much success in building your budget and that you are meeting all of the long-term goals that you've set forth for yourself. Check out this video here. I talk all about faith, finances, and wifehood on this channel, and so if that's something that you like, go ahead and subscribe. I'll have more content coming out like this, and I have a bunch of content like this on my channel already, so be sure to check that out. Have a great day, guys. Hey, if you haven't gone ahead and hit that like button, if you're enjoying this content, I would truly appreciate it. It really helps to push this out to more people so that they can get these same tips too. Thanks.